Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today we have entered day 179 in the ongoing war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. And first, my apologies for the later than normal video. I took the boys down to the range and we proceeded to shoot off some excess 9mm and 45 caliber ammunition that we had here in stock at Casa VOR. Anyway, back to the video. We continue to hear about, obviously, heavy fighting taking place. And a few weeks ago, we were all really kind of focused on the prospects of this large Ukrainian counteroffensive that allegedly was going to drive out Russian forces from the western bank of the Dnieper River, to include retaking the main city of Kherson, and that's that. You can see it right now. So right now, if we look at the line in terms of where the fighting is taking place, it is still well to the west-northwest of the main city of Kherson, and then again up and down the line of contact, extending for some distance along the Dnieper River, or west of the Dnieper River as well. And it had originally looked like the Ukrainians were pressing somewhat of a counterattack, a multi-battalion, possibly multi-brigade counterattack is what we were constantly being in terms of fed information. But right now, that counterattack by the Ukrainian forces looks like it has stalled and is really going nowhere. So we know in this area there was some Ukrainian movement designed to press down from kind of a north by northwesterly direction, and at the same time another attack due just to the west northwest of Kherson as well, in this direction coming out of Mykolaiv. Right now, we do know that those offensives, those operations by the Ukrainians have stalled and are no longer proceeding accordingly. Right now, the front lines are relatively stable. We do know that the Russians have pushed back the Ukrainian forces in areas due north of Kherson, kind of in this area here, where my circle is kind of rotating around. And again, right now we're seeing, for all intents and purposes, some limited Russian advances now taking place in this area. But it does look like the Ukrainians were stopped relatively cold in this ongoing fight. In the east, we're kind of seeing the same thing. We're continuing to see the Russians consolidate and push forward between Soledar and Bakhmut. These movements by the Russians are being measured in some cases a few hundred meters to a kilometer or two per day as they continue this very steady but very, very slow advance. We are seeing some rather interesting tactics being employed by the Russian forces in the ongoing conflicts, attained through video footage that we are watching and studying very closely. The Russians seem to be moving forward, attacking Ukrainian positions, and then withdrawing back. And then they unleash hell with their heavy artillery, and then they launch these company-size, and in some cases platoon-size engagements, where they then hit the Ukrainian ground forces, attack the Ukrainian ground forces, and then pull back, and they do it repeatedly. And apparently it is working to some extent, because they are pushing forward rather slowly. But when you look at the size of the two armies facing each other, you look at the capabilities of the Russian army, and if it had decided to mobilize, how really big it could get. And yet we continue to see some of these really ticky-tack operations take place. And again, it does remind me of a strategy designed to slowly bleed the Ukrainian army over a period of time. But at the same time, we continue to hear reports from the Russian side as well that some of its forces are tired, worn out. Some of its airborne forces, through anecdotal reports and obviously reports coming out of the Ukrainian side of the war itself, is also saying the same thing in regards to some of the Russian units as well. So from the footage that I have seen and observed of Russian forces, their kit still appears to be they still appear to be properly supplied. They appear, and again, these are videos, so I mean, you take it for granted what it is. They appear to be motivated and reasonably well led, and but just more importantly, their military bearing in these videos, they don't look unkept and disheveled, and they look like they still have the will to fight. And I've seen dozens of these videos. They don't look unkept, and then obviously they're still being relatively fairly well supplied as well from what I'm seeing in the videos. And at the same time, I would say the Ukrainians are a bit less, not quite what we were seeing at the beginning stages of the war. I was rather impressed with the showing of some of the Ukrainian units before the war had actually kicked off, and then kind of in the early stages of the war. Many of these Ukrainian units looked very professional, looked more or less like a westernized armed forces, which for all intents and purposes they were. And again, now not quite as good as they looked at the onset of the conflict, depending on what unit you're looking at. Obviously, some of their SF units still look outstanding, and I would say passed the visual test. Territorial brigades starting to look like territorial brigades or territorial units. You are starting to see the effects of long-term conflict on those units inside of the Ukrainian military, and you yourself can go out and look at some of the same footage that I am seeing, and make the determination for yourself. And also, got to just quickly bring up a certain heavyweight fight that took place. What was it? Yesterday? Yeah, and Usyk versus Anthony Joshua. The Ukrainians have themselves a hell of a fighter, and I was never really that impressed with Anthony Joshua as a boxer. I mean, he's a physical specimen. Yeah, he is. He absolutely is. But I think when it comes down to heart and determination and just boxing ability, I think the Ukrainian really took it to him, so to speak. We'll see how if Usyk is able to fight Tyson Fury. I don't think he'll have the same success with Tyson Fury. But we'll see what happens. Tyson Fury is a whole nother animal, and has really improved on his power game as well, in terms of the damage that he was able to do to Deontay Wilder in the last fight. How did I get on boxing? Anyway, we're gonna cease fire, and we're gonna do this on another video. But that's kind of where we stand today. More to come very soon as we watch what is happening on the ground. My next video will be on the current battlefield, Ethiopia, that is taking place, and that will be soon after this video. Have a good day.